Hello, folks. It's me, Kerbanaut here, for episode 8 of Let's Actually Play Kerbal Space Program. I haven't released a video in 2 weeks. Now that sounds like a familiar beginning, doesn't it? That's right, because, the last time we did an episode I said the exact same thing, and I'm gonna give you the exact same excuse. I have been incredibly busy with filming and just university stuff. It has been manic, so I haven't had the time to edit this video until now, and that's only because my laptop is broken, so I can't do university work. Nonetheless, here we go, into episode 8 of Let's Actually Play Kerbal Space Program. Now, you will see here, we have a wonderful little SSTO. This SSTO also has a name. It's called Leo, and it runs off of 2 Rapier engines and 2, I believe it's LV909s, because not only they're small and light, but they're also the most efficient engine in space that we have at the moment, bar nuclear engines, because I did try this design with nuclear engines and it just was not wanting to fly right. I got it up into space and I got to orbit and dock and everything, but when I just tried coming back down, it just was not working at all. So we switched over to the LV909s and they worked perfectly well, and this is a lovely spaceship, a lovely SSTO. I'm very proud of it. I'm quite fond of it as well. The RCS is nicely balanced, and I think the Spaceplane Plus parts go really nicely together with the stock parts, and it just makes it look so much better. It just really adds to the quality of the craft. Anyway, enough of my ranting about how awesome this craft is. Let's actually use it for something productive. So, what this craft is doing is it's bringing a small payload up to the Sphere station, where our kind of crew and fuel and whatnot transfer ship, what's the name, tug, I don't know, a ferry, I don't know, a bus, ferry, some form of transportation from LKO to LMO. So, yeah, we are bringing fuel for that. This is what Leo is doing. So you can see the small load of fuel there. Now this isn't going to be enough to fill it up all the way. This is just going to be enough to fill up some of the tanks, and then we're going to have to send up another mission with the SSTO later to with basically the same payload to fill up the rest of the tanks. But anyway, we come in, and under its own power the fuel docks. It does have a small probe on there, so that docks nice and easy, and we get in and the fuel transfer begins. Once the fuel's transferred, we have no more need for this small thing. It does have some RCS in it, but we are not in need of that, and I doubt we will be anytime soon, so we're just going to use that RCS to deorbit this container and hopefully have it burn up in the atmosphere. Funnily enough, it didn't burn up in the atmosphere, and just kind of landed and crashed into the ground, but we won't see that because we don't have time, because we've got a lot to pack into this episode. Anyway, back to Leo as it's landing. Now, I've never been one for space planes. I've not really been a good pilot in KSP, even at the best of times and with stock aerodynamics, so having to fly a space plane back down to Kerbin with deadly re-entry and FAR installed, it's quite a challenge for me, and I admit I did have to reload a couple of times coming back to Kerbin. However, we do get it, and I think the trick is to kind of slow yourself down as fast as possible when you're high up in the atmosphere. Then when you're lower in the atmosphere, what I did anyway was I just pointed prograde and tried not to move off prograde, because I found that if I was moving off prograde when I was going that fast, because I start to travel really quickly. I'm going up like super ridiculous Mach numbers. Deadly re-entry almost kills me, and then FAR wants to just shred my plane to bits, so it's just trying to get a good balance between the two. So the first kind of stage of descent is to stop deadly re-entry killing me by slowing down, and the second stage of descent, when we just go prograde like we are doing now, is designed to just stop far from killing me by ripping the plane apart. Because if I go too far off prograde here, the high dynamic pressures on this craft will just tear the wings off, tear the fuel tanks off, and completely destroy this aircraft. And we do not want that to happen. So what I do is I just point prograde and let this thing do what it wants to do until we get into the lower atmosphere, until we're down to some sane speeds. And you can see we're even getting Mach effects on the way in. And just the aerodynamic shape of this plane, although brilliant when we're ascending, is rather annoying when we're coming down, just because it means we can't slow down fast. It means we have to really watch out for our descent path. Now, I did, as I said, reload this a couple of times. The first time I did it, I ended up stalling because I didn't turn these engines on the first time. I got down, but I stalled and basically fell into the ocean, flipped out and tore my wings off and everything, like you do. But the reason why I stalled is because I do not have a lot of lift, a lot of wing surfaces on this aircraft. We have the delta wings on this, but we only have that. And when you think about it, there's those, and then there's all that fuel on board. The lift to weight ratio, it's not very good. I'm not sure if that's a technical thing, a lift to weight ratio, but maybe I'm making it up right now. But we didn't really have enough lift to keep this thing going at lower speeds, for landing speeds, which is a real shame. So you can see we're getting down, and I'm really having to sacrifice a lot of height just to keep the speed up. Anyway, we do come down for landing, and I shut the engines off, and I come in low and then try to pull up, and by pulling up I'm kind of trying to gain height and lose speed. But we do come in, I have a little bounce of the gear, and instead of just slamming on the brakes and risking flipping out, what I do is I just keep SAS and RCS turned on, and I just kind of toggle the brakes, and then once I start slowing down, I then put the brakes on full. Once we've slowed down, we can start to turn around, because I didn't land on the runway. As I said, I'm not the best pilot. I'm not a good pilot at the best of times. So, I wasn't expecting to land on the runway. I was hoping I could, but I knew that it was a possibility that I couldn't. And I didn't want to risk killing my pilots, was it Bill and Bob, and kind of losing the space plane just to, trying to land on the runway and failing. Anyway, we get in, and I decided to go into the bridge, but I come across a problem. I haven't turned fast enough. So I'm like, okay, we're going to turn on the engines, we're going to go for it. It doesn't matter. And I ram into this tiny little corner, and I break the nose. I break the cockpit off of the plane. That was totally supposed to happen. This is definitely a designed feature of the plane. The cockpit is totally designed to disconnect from the rest of the plane so that they can put it through, a car wash or something, a plane wash, a space plane wash. I don't know, maybe they replace the tiles, wax the window, I don't know. But I start to roll around. I'm just like, I know, this is a rover, it's genius, I'll try and get back to the runway with this, but to no avail. The torque on this thing's hilarious, and the shape as well just makes it quite brilliant for some hilarious fun times. Anyway, we get one of our highly seasoned pilots out. Not seasoned as in kind of has seasoning on them, but he's seasoned as in experienced, and he stands on top of it for a nice pose. Anyway, seeing as we broke the space plane, the guys back in the spaceplane hangar are going to have to take a few days to super glue that cockpit back onto the plane. So the guys in the vehicle assembly building have had to pick up where they left off, and they've designed a quick-wee rocket to launch up this fuel into space to rendezvous with Spheri Station and supply fuel to the ferry that's going to take some of our pilots back to Minimus. So we rendezvous, dock rather easily. It's basically the same procedure as before, just with a rocket. Transfer our fuel, and we decide to undock. And at this point, we've refueled our ferry. There is no point in it still being here. It's just sitting around doing nothing. So we're going to send it back to Minimus so that it can continue with its job of bringing back science and whatnot. And we have no payloads for it to go to Minimus. We have nothing we have to send, so we might as well just send it off now and not have anything sitting around Sphere Station, because we do want to continue to build on Sphere Station. And while this ferry is still here, it is going to be a bit of a pain to have to maneuver around it and all that kind of stuff. When we're building a station, we don't want to have this big horrible ferry just sitting there blocking our every move. So it's easier in the long run if we just send it off to Minimus now and let it do its job there. I mean, it has the fuel, so let's just let it do its thing. So there we go, we have our Minimus encounter. So we set up a little bit of an alarm on the Kerbanaut alarm clock, just to remind us to do a correction burn when we're coming into Minimus, because we don't want to swap out to another craft and completely forget about this and have it fly off into some random orbit that'll chuck it out and it's not going to chuck it out, but anyway. As I was saying before, we are wanting to expand Sphere Station, and this right here is part of the expansion. It doesn't look much, but I'm trying out a new mod here. This mod is I forget the name of it, but it's like inflatable habitats and whatnot. And this small, slightly egg-shaped capsule that you see here, wobbling around like a piece of semi-cooked spaghetti, is part of that pack. It has our 2 seasoned pilots in it. Perhaps the fact that it's wobbling around like a piece of spaghetti and they have seasoned pilots on, maybe the ship is trying to tell us something. Perhaps it wants to be eaten. I do not know. Maybe it's baiting the Kraken. Who knows? Anyway, enough of that silly food nonsense. We have real work to do. So Mr. Spaghetti over here has to get his ship to Sphere Station to dock. But we run out of fuel because that ascent was incredibly inefficient. If you were paying attention and not listening to my ranting about spaghetti, I actually, I didn't do my gravity turn almost at all. I almost went straight up, which wastes a ton of fuel. I mean, it's a pain, but I did have enough fuel to finish up, and I used RCS to come in nicely and dock and do what needs to be done and kind of see all this. Now I did do this docking at night time, so it's a bit of a pain, but I have used the magic of video editing to brighten up the thing, brighten up space in general, just so you can see it. So yeah, you saw I docked it on once and it looked a bit weird, so I turned it around and I docked it a second time, because there's nothing but perfection here. Anyway, going over to another thing that we've been working on. This is a mohole probe. If you remember back to, I believe was the last episode, or was the one before that or something? I don't know, but in one of the previous episodes, we sent off a probe to Mohole and set up an alarm for a correction burn near one of the nodes for changing planes, so that we could get a nice encounter. And so that was the Mohole probe, but we did a slight correction burn for the Mohole probe, and we then have to swap right back to our ferry, our Minimus to Kerbin ferry, because that has to do a correction burn as well to get nice and close to Minimus. And so you see us here just swapping over and doing our little correction burn here. Now I don't do it with the engines, I just use RCS because we're going so slowly and we really don't need to use the engines, and we've got more than enough RCS to do the job. And it's quite a delicate maneuver here, so we just set it up and add an alarm for changing spheres of influence, so that we can be alerted when we come into the sphere of influence, so that we can decide which way we want to orbit. Now, here's a completely new thing. Here's something that is quite interesting, actually. This is something quite cool. I've completely forgotten what this is, actually. I'm trying to think. I think this is I have a feeling this is another probe. I've got a feeling this is another probe. Let's see. What is this? This is indeed another probe. I was right. Yes. Okay, yeah, so this is another probe. Seemingly, we're going to go to Dres. Yeah, that planet. Because we've got a window coming up. So we send that off, and we place a maneuver node down that's going to correct it. We have very little fuel in it for that correction burn, but I'm sure we'll be able to do it. I'm sure we have enough fuel to do that. Anyway, going back to this Moho probe, we have come into its sphere of influence, and so you know what that means? That means that we can do science, and we get high above Moho science from the materials bays. They jiggle about, and we watch them carefully with our sensors, and maybe we have some cameras inside there just spying on those little materials bays. And of course we have to do all the other science as well. It's not just the materials bays. We have to get some gravity scans above Dres, and we have to get some mystery goo and whatnot. And that's going to be very helpful. It's going to give us lots of little science points that's going to advance the technological technological level of our species as Kerbals, and it's going to be very exciting. But we have a periapse that's quite high, and to fix that, we have to do another correction burn, and that's fine. We still have a lot of fuel left. Well, comparatively a lot of fuel. We have enough fuel to do our correction burn. We don't have enough to get into an orbit or anything, but that's fine. We don't need to get into an orbit. This mission was planned as a flyby, and it's doing its job just fine. So we do our correction burn. This correction burn was originally just going to get the periapse quite low, but then I thought that it might be worth just bringing the periapse to be more equatorial, because at this point I was kind of hoping that I could take this entire spaceship home on the fuel that we had left, but I later figured out that we weren't going to have enough fuel to do a burn that was going to take us home, and so we just leave the periapse to be somewhere in low Moho orbit, or in low, near to Moho. So yes, we have got near to Moho, talking about that, and we have to do our science near to Moho. So we grab the material studies and, peer into their very souls and examine their nature to see, what is happening. And we go behind Moho. And so we don't have any sun to brighten the day. And so magical, mystical powers of video editing have to brighten it up. Wonderful. We do manage to get some more science, including our thermometers and mystery goo, and I think I have some other experiments on the other side as well. So yeah, I don't know why I brought a barometer. Did I bring a barometer? I don't know. Is that? I don't know. I have no idea. So it was, yeah. So at this point, I decided I was just going to transmit everything, because before then I was hoping to bring it back, but at that point I decided we're just going to transmit everything. And salvage what we can. So yeah, transmission complete, and that ends the mission of the Moho probe. The Moho probe has done its duty. It has given us the science of Moho and has been a pioneering vessel in this space program. But we cannot finish the episode on the ending of Moho's probe, because not only would that be sad, but we have got more to do. And so, we go back to the Minimus ferry, which has entered into Minimus' sphere of influence, and now can figure out which way it's going to orbit and make a correction burn based on that. And so we select our lovely Celia station as the target, and bring ourselves into an orbit that will bring us a nice close encounter with this sphere station, using RCS to trim that orbit to a nice close encounter. Of course, we do the whole kind of retro burn and get us nice and close to the station itself when we get that close encounter, and this is the docking sequence that happened afterwards. It's not a very impressive docking sequence, it's just another docking sequence, but here you go. We do come in and bump it a little, and that is that. There's nothing, incredibly impressive, and that is all we need to do with that. Now, we got that science, so what are we going to do with it? There is a chance we could get this electrical stuff, or we could get this stuff here, and this ion-powered stuff is the one we're going to go for. And with that ion-powered stuff, we are going to create a little probe and launch it up as a kind of a test to see how it works, how it fares in space, how powerful it is, because I have not actually tested the new ion engines in 0.23.5, and I want to try them. I haven't tried them. It's horrible that I haven't tried them, but now is the time. And so we deploy our solar panels. We suck in the lovely light of the sun, of Kerbal, our parent star, and we boot up the satellite antenna, and the engine follows, and it is surprisingly powerful. I did not expect it to be that powerful. I'm used to the weakling engines, the weakling ion engines we had before, but this is actually incredibly powerful, so I have to actually point retrograde. And then we go ahead and we start trimming our orbit down to be nice and circular. Now we are going into a very high orbit, but that's just because it's a test satellite. It's going to be providing, I don't know, perhaps television to some of our Kerbals, or maybe it's just a radio relay for communication between those on the Sphere station and maybe their friends or family back on Kerbin. Who knows, perhaps it's a mix of both, or perhaps it's just sitting there in space doing nothing and has no purpose in life. Although it doesn't really have a life, it's a probe, it's not sentient. As you can see, here is another probe. It is exactly the same, it's exactly the same launcher, except it's just been launched again, and brought close to Sphere station. I just cut out the launch itself because we don't have time to look at that, and it's not necessary. You've seen the launch before. This is just a lower altitude launch. So we rendezvous with Sphere station, do some science, and get a Kerbal to go over and just pick up that science to take it back to Kerbin, and that way we can actually recover a lot of the science that it produces, as opposed to just transmitting it and not getting very much. But that is not all it's going to do, because that would be a waste of a mission. If that was all that mission was, then that would be really inefficient, and I don't like inefficiency. So we're going to send this off to the depths of space. Whoa. Well, actually, it's more of like the inner bits of space. It's the innermost bit of space in Kerbal Space Program, actually. Ooh. It's, you'll see in a second, we're actually going to the sun. A place we have not yet explored, a place which is not yet been traversed by Kerbal kind or its probes. And yes, we're going not only to the sun, but we are going really close to the sun. We're going 500,000 kilometers above the sun. It's pretty close. It's actually really close. We're trying to get low solar science as well as high solar science, because that would be pretty cool as well. So that is the plan anyway with that satellite. So we're just going to set up a Kerbal alarm clock alarm for that. Now, back to the Duna probe. Now this is a probe we sent out not too long ago. It was quite near the beginning of our space program, but we launched this out and just kind of let it float to Duna. But now its time has come, we are bringing it in, we have done our correction burn, and we are going to let it fly down to Duna and claim the science that it holds. But we will see that in the next episode, so come back, subscribe if you will to see the next episode. It'll tell you, because if you subscribe it'll tell you when the next episode's out. I'm just like self-promoting like mad here. So if you feel so inclined, you can just subscribe or like if you want. Leave a comment below, any suggestions, comments, little helpful tidbits. Perhaps you have a joke to tell, I don't know. Leave a comment if you will. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.